The most advantageous aspect of attending my wife's office party was the opportunity to engage in a competitive driving experience with my Challenger. Conversely, the faster I accelerated, the more rapidly I approached the destination. The venue was a cabin situated in a secluded wooded area, accessible via a 20-mile stretch of uninterrupted road. There were no stop signs or other traffic control measures. The vehicle's headlights illuminated the road ahead, which was devoid of traffic. The open road beckoned, awaiting the Dodge's performance. However, this also meant a lack of access to fuel or other essential supplies. Donna and I had been experiencing a gradual separation since our daughter's marriage. Despite my initial hopes for a different outcome, circumstances had not aligned in my favor. Donna had insisted on my attendance at this ceremony, despite my objections. It was evident that I was not inclined to attend. She had previously gone alone, whereas I was not keen on the idea. Additionally, Donna enjoyed socializing, whereas I was not particularly sociable. In the past year, I had even suspected that she was having an affair. However, I had become indifferent to the point of no longer caring. I believe that this was one of the reasons for the growing distance between us. I was seeking an exit from an unfulfilling relationship. I needed a way to terminate it. I must concede that I was likely the catalyst for my wife's pursuit of a more fulfilling life. I am an unconventional minimalist. I was raised in a financially disadvantaged family. My brothers and I had considerably less than most children our age. I am referring to items such as bicycles, toys, pets, and electronic gadgets. It was akin to adopting an Amish lifestyle with regard to religion. I was not lacking in intelligence and was fully aware of how the wider world operated. However, I was unable to reconcile myself to this way of life. I was aware of the importance of avoiding debt and of meeting my financial obligations. It was prudent to set aside funds for retirement, as a minimalist lifestyle does not preclude the ability to live a comfortable life. While minimalism does not require one to be a fanatic, it does necessitate a certain degree of self-control, allowing for a few indulgences. One can appear normal to most people, but my greatest challenge was marriage and family. It was challenging to find a woman who could tolerate my eccentricities and accept my uniqueness. Donna shared my background and was accustomed to living a modest lifestyle. While she did not fully embrace it, she was able to tolerate it. Over time, she appeared to become more accepting. She became less frugal, which I found disagreeable, but I was able to comprehend her actions, particularly in light of the birth of our daughters. We purchased a modest, practical residence and began wearing superior quality garments. Donna occasionally had her hair styled and became proficient in grooming and makeup. We acquired 2 smartphones from the previous year's models. As the girls grew older, Donna began working. Given the necessity of transportation, we purchased her a Honda Civic, similar to the one I owned. Her salary covered the cost of the vehicle, lunches, and a new wardrobe. My name is William Smith. It is the most common name in the United States. I am gainfully employed by a local enterprise that manufactures industrial compressors. The nature of the work is monotonous, yet I am content with my position and remuneration. On occasion, I was offered a promotion, but I declined. I did not inform Donna of my extramarital affair, nor did I divulge it to my wife. I deemed it prudent to save for retirement. I made frequent purchases of gold, acquiring 1-ounce Kruger-Rand coins. My collection exceeded 30 units, stored in my safe deposit box. I had only recently begun this accumulation. Finally, I purchased a 1970 Dodge Challenger. Donna performed well at Gilbert Industrial, receiving regular bonuses and promotions during her first year. She discussed her work infrequently. She did mention her job on occasion, but that has ceased. She rarely discusses her colleagues or the work environment. I sensed something was amiss, but I was unable to discern the nature of the problem. I sought to gain a deeper understanding of the situation. The event was somewhat of an outing, and I felt out of place. I had previously dated all of her companions on one or more occasions and found them to be unappealing. We exited the highway in Holbrook, where I was finally able to allow the Challenger to accelerate. Donna was visibly uncomfortable with the speed, but she did not voice her objections. I was aware that I was exceeding the speed limit, but I was not concerned about it. What is the rationale behind this urgency? We have sufficient time to reach our destination. Would you kindly reduce your speed? I am not in a hurry to arrive. In fact, I was not eager to attend this event. I am merely utilizing this time to perform maintenance on the engine. It is beneficial for a vehicle to undergo a periodic run. I kindly request that you refrain from negatively impacting my mood. This weekend is crucial for my professional advancement. I am uncertain as to why you are so adamant about this. I am perplexed as to why it is of such importance for me to attend this corporate event. I must profess my continued bewilderment at the necessity of this event. I am in need of a comprehensive understanding of my new position in the company so that I may receive the attention and support I require to fulfill my duties. I am still uncertain as to the necessity of this event. I am confident that Mrs. Simpson will be able to elucidate the situation when we arrive. Marge Simpson was the wife of company president Glenn Robertson Simpson. The Simpsons were a prominent family in the business community. I have consistently supported you in the past. What has prompted this change in attitude? My new position entails a number of distinctive responsibilities. Marge advised you to gradually familiarize yourself with them so that you can fully understand them. It was initially challenging to comprehend, but she reassured me that by the time we reached the lodge, I would be able to grasp the situation. My adrenaline was rapidly increasing, and it was evident that Donna's message was not particularly complex. The weekend appeared to be promising when we arrived at the lodge, and Donna proceeded to enter the premises, leaving me to I was prompted to assume the responsibility of carrying the bags. I felt as though I had been placed in a compromising position. "Nice wheels, Mr. Smith," Toby Wallace commented. He was the sole commendable employee in their office. "Hello, Toby. How are you?" I replied. Toby introduced me to his wife, Bonnie. They were situated on the front porch, but it appeared as though the majority of the other individuals were inside. I surveyed the parking area. I estimated that there were approximately 16 cars and one dilapidated truck at the end of the lot. For the following 5 minutes, we engaged in conversation about the Challenger. I inquired about their presence outside the main gathering area and their apparent exclusion from the activities within. They expressed that they did not align with the demographic of the other attendees. "Mr. Smith, we had initially planned to depart at an earlier hour, but Mrs. Simpson he insists that we remain. We arrived early today to assist with the setup, but the vendors departed approximately an hour ago. You will need to clarify the situation. There seems to be something suspicious, although I am uncertain as to the precise nature of it. I do not wish to cause you distress, but I believe it may be connected to your wife. Are you planning to stay for the duration of the weekend?" I parked my vehicle on the side of the road to avoid any potential issues when we leave. The situation was becoming increasingly intriguing. I should retrieve our belongings from the room. Please inform me of your departure. I will be careful and avoid any risky behavior. Fortunately, there were only 2 individuals. Upon entering the cabin, I observed that Mrs. Simpson was watching me. She smiled and waved. Donna was waiting for me at the top of the stairs and seemed somewhat annoyed that it had taken me so long to arrive. It was time for Bill to prepare for the evening's activities. He should clean himself, tidy up, and put on something presentable. It is imperative that we appear presentable, as tonight promises to be a particularly special occasion. I would like it to be nothing short of perfect. If it is not too much trouble, I am going to take a brief walk around the house to calm down. I will be right back. Upon exiting the room, I observed a slight smirk. The walk was made more pleasant by the slight chill in the air. I counted 16 cars in total. The vehicles were primarily Mercedes-Benz, with a few Jaguars among them. 4 of the cars displayed out-of-state license plates. I was somewhat perplexed by the apparent discrepancy between the caliber of the individuals present and that of my wife's social circle. It was evident that we occupied a different social stratum. There was something about the situation that did not seem entirely normal. I observed Toby and Bonnie loading their belongings into a vehicle. I greeted them and approached to converse. I discerned that Mrs. Simpson had decided to terminate your employment. However, it was not a definitive separation. We are gradually distancing ourselves from this situation. I am uneasy here, Mr. Smith. Toby suggested that we remain, but I dissuaded him. Bonnie interjected, requesting my assistance. I would be grateful if you could stay here until after the buffet tonight. I am also feeling somewhat nervous and would appreciate your company. I am unsure of what is going on, but I am not pleased about it. It is often the case that those with similar mindsets are in agreement. Bonnie blushed slightly at my feeble attempt at humor. I believe we can manage. There will be crabs and oysters at this. I believe I will enjoy this experience. I had dressed as my wife had requested before we reached the buffet. The hostess took me under her arm and led me into a quiet alcove. We are pleased that you have decided to come tonight to support Donna. This is a significant step in her career, and it is important that she has your full support. Furthermore, the proposed salary increase is substantial, and I am confident that you will be gratified by it. I apologize for asking, but which position are we discussing? When I inquired about it, Donna was somewhat evasive. She typically dismisses me with a wave and instructs me to await further information until tonight. I understand, William. I believe she simply wishes to maintain the element of surprise. You did not respond to my inquiry. There is no official designation. One might simply refer to her as the personal assistant. I observe that the buffet appears appetizing. I am grateful for the clarification, Mrs. Simpson. Marge is my preferred form of address. I spent the subsequent hour or so trying on various items. Donna was engaged in social interaction with other individuals. Given the presence of notable individuals, Toby, Bonnie, and I were afforded the opportunity to interact for a more extended period. As we were concluding our activities, Mrs. Simpson entered the premises. William, Donna informed me that you arrived in your sports car. I inquired if you would be amenable to taking us for a brief excursion with the intention of consuming a beverage. I nodded in assent, and she smiled. Wine at the ABC store in Holbrook. The cases have already been paid for, so the only remaining task is to collect them. There should be no problems, but if there are, please do not hesitate to contact me. It would be greatly appreciated if you could bring your cell phone. I am at your disposal, Marge. I will inform Donna. I will be on my way when she leaves. I looked at Toby. I informed Donna that Mrs. Simpson had requested my assistance, and she merely responded with a smile. She did, however, issue a single directive: don't forget your phone. Interestingly, both individuals emphasized the same point: Toby, I require your assistance. He responded with a smile as I tossed him the keys to the Challenger. Are you serious? Go to Holbrook and purchase 3 cases of wine from the ABC store for Mrs. Simpson. I sense that there might be some kind of problem that will cause a delay, if you know what I mean. Toby smiled and nodded. Here's my cell phone. Just put it on the dashboard. If it rings, don't answer it. Whatever you do, don't turn it off. I donned a comfortable jacket and settled in to await developments. From various vantage points on the back porch, I could observe the majority of the interior of the cabin. It would have been advantageous to have a thermos of coffee on hand, but that had not been a consideration in my planning. I located a position from which I could view the interior without being seen. Donna found herself the center of attention. She smiled, laughed, and appeared somewhat embarrassed. After approximately 20 minutes, Mrs. Simpson and Donna focused their attention on Donna's cell phone. I was able to discern their actions with reasonable certainty. They were checking my location. I was grateful for Toby's assistance in this regard, as I am now almost a Holbrook. The 2 women smiled as Mrs. Simpson raised her hand and began to speak. Unfortunately, I was unable to discern the exact words, but it was evident that the room was in agreement with the sentiment expressed. They were hearing it was like soft applause. Glenn Roberts and Simpson walked over and took Donna's hand. They began to ascend the main staircase and stopped. He raised his and her hands up as in a victory salute, and they both laughed as they climbed the stairs. I could hear cheers of joy in the room. It was about an hour and a half before the Challenger returned. I decided to take my time, and I had always carried with me a reliable penknife, crafted from high-quality steel and equipped with a keen blade. Upon surveying the scene, I resolved to commence with the automobiles situated in close proximity to my lodging. I was not in a hurry, there was no need for haste. With meticulous care, I placed each valve stem within my jacket pocket, striving to avoid both misplacement and the potential for clogging the driveway leading to the Simpson residence. The tally of vehicles and valve stems I had catalogued reached a total of 16 cars and 64 valve stems. With 1 hour remaining, I was uncertain as to the optimal course of action. 4 of the vehicles were secured, while the remainder were accessible. I therefore commenced with the cars situated in close proximity to the lodge and retrieved the registration documents. Some were located on the visors, while the majority were stored in the glove compartment. I was unsure of my ultimate objective, but believed the documents might prove useful in the future. Toby's return was still 30 minutes away. I determined that it would be beneficial to remove the valve stems from the spare tires, given my access to the cars. Additionally, I had access to the trunks, which allowed me to retrieve an additional 10 valves. After 20 minutes, I had successfully obtained valves from 2 cars, while the other 2 lacked spare tires. While this may appear to be a trivial and juvenile action, it did provide a certain degree of satisfaction. I am not inclined to engage in confrontational behavior, and therefore, all of my actions, or those I intended to take, were carried out in a calm and calculated manner. I did not possess the self-esteem to engage in more aggressive or confrontational behavior. Due to my lack of self-esteem, I did not feel the need to present myself in a manner that would be perceived as masculine or heroic. I will allow those who identify as alpha males to assume that role. 20 minutes later, the challenger returned. Toby and Bonnie appeared to be enjoying the ride. He confirmed that there was indeed a delay at the ABC store, as I had anticipated. It appeared to have been while they were absent, no one contacted me via my mobile telephone. I deactivated the device and removed the SIM card. They were eager to return home promptly. I thanked Toby, wished him a pleasant journey, and advised him to secure alternative employment with minimal delay. The cost of the wine was likely considerable, however, this issue was readily resolved. I stored all 3 crates on the porch of the gatehouse. The placement of the crates on the porch of the gatehouse was intended to avoid any accusations of theft. The return journey was relatively uneventful, and there were few items in the house that I considered to be of significant value. These included a few personal documents, a laptop computer, and a Krug champagne bottle. Initially, I considered setting the house on fire before leaving, but this would have made Donna a martyr, and I was reluctant to do so. 2 hours later, I was on my way. I did not feel the need to leave a traditional note or wedding ring, allowing her to deal with the situation as she saw fit. I was in no hurry and had no particular purpose in mind. I had been on the road for 2 days. On Monday morning, I called my workplace and informed them of my intention to leave. I requested that my final salary payment be sent to my parents and car, given that they would be affected by my departure. I was met with discontent at my abrupt departure without prior notification. I offered an apology but did not provide an explanation. I was able to procure a nourishing breakfast at Waffle House on my departure. I purchased a local newspaper and discovered an intriguing advertisement for a local supermarket seeking assistance. They were recruiting an individual to perform shelf-stocking duties between the hours of 10. Please see below for further details. The hours in question were 10 a.m. and 6 a.m. After breakfast, I proceeded to examine the market, which was situated in an eclectic, historic district of Chattanooga. I spent the subsequent hour traversing the surrounding area, noting the prevalence of traditional craftsman-style cottages and a modest number of mobile homes. While I was open to the idea of residing in a compact trailer, I was also hoping to find something more permanent. Furthermore, I encountered a sign indicating the availability of a garage apartment for rent. I had not yet inquired about the job opportunity, but I was reluctant to lose the garage apartment. The garage was not included in the rental price, but after negotiating an additional $50 per month, the landlord agreed to the terms. The apartment was modest in size. The apartment was a bedroom with no shower, furnished with a bed, dresser, table, and chairs. The rent was reasonable and the apartment was suitable, so I accepted it. I would address the bathroom issue at a later date. At least I had a garage for the challenger. The situation at the supermarket was somewhat different. They had plenty of challengers, but not so many that I was able to persuade the proprietor that it would be acceptable to leave the vehicles in the store overnight. I then proceeded to negotiate the terms of my employment. I informed them that I was willing to work for no additional remuneration and at a rate that was $1 less than what they had initially proposed. They did not request any personal information from me, and I was subsequently offered the position. A brief excursion from my apartment led to the establishment of a new residence. The landlord furnished me with an access code to his internet, which was a convenient arrangement. Following a brief visit to the local Goodwill, I procured essential kitchen supplies and a compact microwave. Additionally, I obtained linens and cleaning supplies. That evening, I terminated my insurance policies, opting not to engage with my bank or credit cards. I reasoned that neither entity could inflict significant harm, given the circumstances. My daughters were married, which made my departure somewhat easier. I do not yet have grandchildren, but I am confident that this will not be a significant amount of time. I contacted my daughter, Lara, to inform her that I was doing well. I requested that she be available to assist her mother if necessary. Lara was aware that I had departed, but Donna did not provide her with any additional information. She promised to inform her sister, Linda, of the situation. I deleted all calls from my wife and turned my phone off again. I needed to take a shower tomorrow. Not everything was ideal. I needed to find a secure location for my gold. I was aware that what I possessed was not considered essential, yet it held a peculiar significance for me. I obtained a safe deposit box in Huntsville, Alabama. I hoped that it would not be linked to me in Chattanooga. Of course, I was mistaken, but I wanted to at least attempt it. The drive was nearly 2 hours, but that was my estimation. The apartment was reasonably secure, but I installed a new deadbolt and heavy-duty lock to provide additional protection. I was able to settle into my new job relatively quickly, with a male colleague assisting me during the first 3 days and then working independently after the first 2 weeks. I was able to manage all aspects of my work and personal life effectively with the assistance of a membership to the Planet Fitness Club, which provided a convenient solution to my showering needs. I typically began work at 10 o'clock. My workday commenced at night and concluded at 6 a.m. The next item was a brief period of jogging or a 30-minute walk to the planet was initially sufficient. Initially, only the shower was utilized, but gradually, some exercise equipment was incorporated. By the end of the first month, a regimen of almost 2 hours of daily gym workouts had been established. A notable improvement in overall well-being and a slight reduction in weight were observed. While never self-identified as overweight, a degree of flabbiness was present. The new job, while lacking in variety, was a source of satisfaction. The transition to the gym was a pivotal decision, as it allowed for the selection of preferred exercises and the avoidance of those less suited to individual needs. I abstained from television viewing but did possess a used desktop computer with an excellent monitor. My cooking was minimal, yet I observed a shift in my dietary habits, albeit unintentionally. I found myself gravitating towards a keto diet. After 3 months, I felt an improvement in my overall well-being and noticed a reduction in my body weight. I contacted my daughters once more. I initiated the call to Linda and introduced myself. I informed her that I was her father. I explained that I was calling to inquire about her well-being, given that we had all been concerned about her. I asked her if she was okay and she replied that she was fine. I told her not to worry about me, as I had always been able to take care of myself. I stated that I was simply calling to ensure that her mother was doing well. My mother is doing well. She has received a promotion at work and is very happy in her new role. However, she is upset with you. She said you left her at the celebration for her promotion and then left the house in a hurt and angry state. She used the words jealous of her to describe your behavior. I am sorry, but I am unable to provide any further information until she is ready to tell you the truth. That is all I know. She said that things are difficult without your income, but that she is coping well financially following her promotion. I am pleased for her. Did she tell you anything about her new job? I only know that she is earning more money. She mentioned that she was earning more money and traveling frequently. After a brief pause, Linda inquired about my plans for returning home for Christmas. I replied that I did not intend to do so. I attempted to send gifts for my daughters, emphasizing that they would prefer to have me present. My father expressed regret, stating that he wished I were there. I ended the call. I was experiencing a sense of despondency. It appeared that my daughters did not fully comprehend the circumstances and attributed the difficulties to my actions. While I was discontented with this perception, I did not feel compelled to justify my position. It was evident that my wife did not express any remorse. I felt a degree of resentment in response to my daughter's assertions. Donna was managing well without me, and I was uncertain about her desire for my presence. I spent the weekend in a state of desolation. My consumption of beer increased over the course of the following weeks. I came to recognize that certain aspects of my life I was performing well in my new role and received a promotion that I had not anticipated. My new responsibilities were clearly defined, and I was able to streamline and improve the stocking system within a relatively short time. The general computer system in place at the store was already performing this task, but my input was appreciated. My accommodations were ideal for my situation and within my budget. I experienced a reduction in weight and began to build muscle in a healthy way. I began to view the six-pack as an attainable goal. I ceased shaving and began to grow a full head of hair, which I wore in a small ponytail. My overall appearance underwent a significant transformation, and I began to appear somewhat intimidating. My workouts at the gym became more challenging and longer in duration. Interestingly, this led to the unexpected formation of a few friendships at the gym, which were, however, not particularly close. I was cautious with women because I was concerned about potential conflicts with men. Despite this, we engaged in friendly banter. However, an unusual alliance emerged. She was known as Harry, at least according to the other members. She was not particularly sociable and rarely spoke to anyone. I was an exception to this. She attended the gym every morning and worked out for at least 2 hours. It was a rigorous workout, not the typical flashy yoga. I assumed she was around 45 years old and was a sturdy build. She always wore sweatpants and a sweatshirt. In contrast, the other women at the gym were more inclined to wear tight latex and skimpy outfits. Despite my reservations, I approached her and struck up a conversation. In the morning, she engaged in a rigorous workout regimen that lasted approximately 2 hours. It was not a particularly elaborate or ostentatious form of yoga. I estimated her age to be approximately 45 years old and observed that she consistently wore sweatpants and a sweatshirt. In contrast to her, the other women in the class exhibited a tendency to showcase their physiques through the use of tight latex and skimpy attire. Notably, she was the only male in the entire facility with whom she interacted, either verbally or visually. I did not encourage such behavior. I did not pursue her, however. To be frank, I was somewhat flattered. Several months elapsed without my contacting my daughter or wife. I was unable to muster the courage to do so. I made several trips to Huntsville to augment my Krugerrand collection. Then, circumstances began to change. "William, may I speak with you?" This was not a typical. The initial contact with Harry was via telephone. She addressed me as William, whereas the other boys in the group had referred to me as Bill. In fact, she had never before addressed me by my first name. "Yes, of course. What can I do to be of assistance?" "Actually, there is something I wish to discuss with you." We sat down on a bench and made ourselves comfortable. "I have a corporate meeting I have to attend on Friday night. I require an escort. I will cover all expenses and I simply request your company. I observed that you do not operate a motor vehicle, so I will also provide transportation. Should the necessity arise, I can reimburse the expenses. I apologize for my stammering. I am genuinely remorseful. I have no intention of offending you. I am merely attempting to convey that I have a few unresolved issues. If you are able to circumvent these issues, I would be happy to provide assistance." "What are the challenges you are facing?" "I am married." "You did not mention that you have a spouse." "I find that unusual." "No, it is not an unusual circumstance. I simply wanted you to be aware of the fact that I have not seen or spoken to my wife for over 9 months. I am unsure if our marriage is still intact. Have you filed for separation or divorce? I am currently lacking the appropriate attire, including a suit, jacket, shirt, and regular shoes. I do not require these items, so I do not possess them. I am confident that I can resolve this issue in a week. I work nights, but I believe I can arrange a free night with minimal difficulty. She expressed satisfaction upon mentioning that she would address the problem. Are there any other outstanding concerns? Should I shave William? I appreciate his beard and hair, but he appears somewhat unkempt. Would he prefer for me to consult with my stylist on Friday afternoon? I nodded in agreement. This marked the beginning of my professional relationship with Harry, who is professionally known as Harriet Parker, attorney at law. On Tuesday, I found myself at Jose Banks is not a first-class establishment, but it is of a higher caliber than any other establishment I have previously visited. Harry had arranged my visit in advance, and as a result, I procured 2 pairs of pants, 2 sports jackets, a couple of shirts, and some ties. I experienced a moment of apprehension as I added 2 turtleneck shirts to the pile, as I have always been partial to them and believed they would complement my athletic attire. Coats. Harry had already paid for everything on the way home. I procured a new pair of shoes and underwear. The shoes were moccasin style, yet still acceptable. My visit to the stylist on Friday was satisfactory. The individual who attended to me was affable and performed his duties satisfactorily. He left me with a short. He trimmed my beard neatly and transformed my ponytail into a sort of short modified mullet, which I believe is not the correct term, but which was long in the back. He assured me that it would be much easier to maintain. I liked it. He did not discuss Harry at length, but he did say that I was lucky that Harry showed up at the apartment at 6 sharp. She did not get out of the car, but she gave a short squeak. Lexus appeared incongruous in my neighborhood. I wore a gray jacket and a gray turtleneck. I considered myself to be aesthetically pleasing, yet I lacked a point of reference. I was grateful that she was driving, as I was unfamiliar with the roads in town. Harry, before we proceeded, could you elucidate precisely what I should and should not do tonight? The initial hour or so will likely entail socializing. It is unnecessary to become distressed about this. The majority of people in this environment will adopt a superior attitude towards sensuality, which is something you should avoid. If possible, steer clear of these individuals. Above all, it is important that you remain close to me and avoid any contact with these individuals. Try to remain inconspicuous, but do not allow anyone to intimidate you. It is essential that I am always in possession of a drink, preferably ginger ale or mineral water. It is advisable to maintain a friendly and pleasant demeanor and to remain calm in the face of adversity. It would be prudent to allow others to believe that we are a couple. I have never considered myself to be of that nature. I lack experience in such matters. Are you able to cope with the situation? Undoubtedly. Will they provide us with sustenance in approximately an hour? Undeniably. We will each receive a plate of 1,500 rubber chickens and a few speeches. Once that is over, they will provide us with something else. It is worth noting that at this juncture, I realized I had not offered her a compliment regarding her attire or hairstyle. I was genuinely out of my element. The initial phase of the evening proceeded precisely as she had described. I found that my role was more straightforward than I had anticipated. The room was populated by numerous single men, all attired in expensive suits and wearing large watches. Harry was particularly adept. Many of the men in attendance were aware of her status as a single woman. Consequently, a number of them initiated brief conversations with her. It appeared that they were gauging her interest. I observed that I was casting sideways glances at them, reminiscent of the character Charles Bronson. This approach proved effective, as evidenced by the fact that I was able to discreetly step away from her to replenish her drink without being approached by another suitor. He procured beverages for her, which she then handed to me for disposal. Harry intermittently regarded me with a faint smile. Eventually, we proceeded to take our seats. The chicken lunches that materialized were of an unexpectedly meager quality. I am not one to turn down food, yet this fare was below my standards. I found myself preoccupied with thoughts of the $500. Harry then turned to me and inquired, "William, would you like to depart from this establishment?" I did not respond to her inquiry. Instead, I rose from my seat, took her hand, and departed the establishment quietly. It appeared that our departure went unnoticed by the other patrons. She removed her footwear and handed me the keys to the Lexus. "Find us some real food," she instructed. 20 minutes later, we arrived at Village Willie's. We were already prepared to order when we entered the restaurant. Each of us had a full plate and a glass of beer as we ate. During this time, I observed one unusual detail. Her evening gown had long sleeves, whereas most women's dresses had short sleeves or no sleeves at all. She was also barefoot, which seemed to be without consequence. Things quickly returned to normal. My evening with Harry was pleasant, though it did not end in any intimacy. We continued our usual relationship at the gym. 3 weeks later, Harry had another appointment that I was required to provide an escort, and I concurred. I felt obliged to inform my superior, who found the situation somewhat unusual. He informed me that I was not required to seek permission to take a vacation, I could simply inform him of my absence. He implied that I was responsible for managing my time and should do so accordingly. Harry's daily workouts at the gym, the atmosphere was somewhat intense. Her heart was beating faster and she was perspiring slightly. She was always fully clothed, whereas the majority of the female attendees wore sports bras and shorts. Harry, on the other hand, wore sweatshirts and long pants. The discrepancy in attire was perplexing, yet I refrained from questioning it. Our second night was similar to the first, except there was no food, and there was the availability of alcohol at the social gathering led to an increase in the number of male attendees who approached other men with the intention of initiating a romantic or sexual relationship. The majority of the evening was spent by the author of this account collecting and disposing of glasses that had been left behind by attendees. One of the more obnoxious attendees finally engaged with the author in a confrontational manner. The author informed him that if he ever harassed the author's fiancée again, the author would physically assault him. The individual in question then ceased his unwanted advances. For the remainder of the evening, I was unaware that I had become so formidable. Following the meeting, we proceeded to consume $40 worth of sashimi at a sushi restaurant. It was another enjoyable, platonic evening. 2 days later, Harry caught me off guard while I was rowing. He inquired as to why I had not informed him of our engagement. I was somewhat embarrassed when one of my co-workers inquired as to whether she had awaited a response, yet she merely smiled. I proceeded to contact Lara, who informed me that Donna had been evading contact with both Lara and Linda. The only information Lara possessed was that Donna frequently traveled and that individuals frequently stayed at the house. I inquired as to whether her mother had initiated divorce proceedings, yet she was unaware that several weeks had elapsed since she and Linda had last communicated with Donna. As I consumed more alcohol, my anger intensified. The following morning, I dispatched 74 valve stems to Glenn Simpson at Gilbert Industries. Accompanying them was a brief missive expressing gratitude for a convivial evening. It had been over a year since that gathering, yet I was confident he would recall it. I opted to forego my usual gym routine that day, as I was keen to avoid working out with a hangover the following day. I was overcome with a compelling urge from Harry, which compelled me to promise to elucidate the entire matter to her the next time we had dinner together. She picked me up at 6 p.m. Harry escorted me to Chris's Steakhouse, an establishment of a higher caliber than I had previously patronized. She listened attentively and offered no commentary. I returned to my apartment just in time for the commencement of my work shift the following day. At the gym, Harry posed another query: do I know anyone who was present at the cabin on the night in question? I informed her that I possessed the names and addresses of all individuals present. Following our training session, she visited my residence and I provided her with an envelope containing 12 vehicle registration forms. She promptly retrieved them and kissed me on the cheek. There are numerous types of lawyers. Harry was a personal injury lawyer who attempted to requested an explanation, but I was met with a smile and a query regarding the cost. In response, I was kissed on the cheek. 3 days later, I received a call from my daughter, Linda. Donna had called her to inquire about my whereabouts. There was a problem at Donna's workplace and she was involved in resolving it. She was dissatisfied and requested an immediate conversation. Linda was reluctant to divulge any information. I am uncertain as to whether Glenn obtained the valve stems. I contacted Harry and informed him that I would collect her in 20 minutes. Her office was situated within an upscale shopping center. It was tasteful, yet not ostentatious. Harry had never seen a Challenger before. The sound of the engine caused a few curious onlookers from her office observed her as she exited the vehicle. I approached the car to open the door for her and smiled at the onlookers. Harry laughed as she entered the vehicle. "I suppose you will desire an engagement ring now." "In due time, take your time." I maintained control of the Challenger. I maintained control until we crossed the Tennessee River, then began to accelerate slightly. Highway 72 leading into Huntsville is a suitable stretch of road, but not the optimal location for demonstrating the vehicle's capabilities. 2 hours later, we were already situated in Dreamland. "William, all individuals present at the cabin that night have been served today. What is the term malicious behavior contributing to the deterioration of a marriage is a legal construct that, in this case, seems to apply. It is unclear, however, whether such a phenomenon exists in reality. It appears that all the necessary categories have been met. The behavior was intentional, extreme, and caused severe emotional distress. This must be why I was perplexed by your assertion that your wife was upset. My daughter, Linda, contacted me today and informed me that Donna needed to speak with me. She relayed that there was a significant issue at work and that Donna was somehow involved in it. I am unaware of any other details. Glenn Simpson and Gilbert Industries are facing a lawsuit seeking $1 million in damages. The other 11 defendants are being sued for $100,000 each. The cost is $000 each. I am not attempting to be impertinent, but do you genuinely believe that this will prove an effective strategy? Undoubtedly, it will not be as straightforward as it initially appears, but I anticipate that some intriguing developments may emerge. As we departed the restaurant, I was somewhat apprehensive, so I inquired casually of Harry whether she wished to retire to a room and return in the morning. She replied that she would like to do so but was unable to. I suggested that we leave at an earlier hour, but she was reluctant to do so. Instead, she requested that I explain everything to her. On the return journey, the vehicle was silent for the initial 20 minutes, before becoming audible once more. It transpired that 8 years ago, Harry had a body mass of approximately 300 pounds. She opted for a dietary and exercise regime in preference to undergoing bypass surgery. As a result of this, she lost 140 pounds. However, she experienced complications, with 20 pounds of loose skin remaining. This required 5 surgical procedures to remove, leaving her with extensive scarring across her body. Harry is a courageous and outspoken individual, yet she conceded that she is, in fact, highly self-conscious. Aware of her physical imperfections, she eschewed romantic involvement and limited her interactions with male friends. Despite her reservations, she felt at ease with me. I accompanied her to a residence, escorted her to the door, and kissed her lightly on the cheek. She expressed gratitude for the food. As I departed, she shed a tear. We proceeded with our amicable, non-romantic relationship. Both parties appeared content with this arrangement. Nick Jack's markets enjoyed popularity among the local population. In less than 2 years, they had expanded their operations with the addition of 2 new stores. The owners were serious when they offered me I was promoted to the position of inventory manager for all 3 units. However, the company insisted that I become a permanent employee, which meant that I had to be fully legalized. I agreed, as both Harry and I were content with the arrangement. A few more weeks passed without any communication from my daughters. Then, I received a brief text message stating that my daughter had been fired. This development introduced a new layer of complexity to my personal life. I was now employed in a full-time position with a decent paycheck. Donna was no longer working, and I was afraid that I would face penalties in the divorce proceedings. I was gainfully employed with a respectable salary, and Donna was no longer working. At this juncture, I was concerned that I might be subjected to penalties in the impending divorce proceedings. I have some encouraging news to share. Harry was serious and I was receptive. 3 of the 11 individuals we sued have reached settlements. What does this signify, given that we only sought $100 in damages? The insurance companies advised them to simply pay the claim and avoid a public lawsuit. As the incident was covered by insurance, it was not a significant financial loss for them. Could we potentially receive compensation? I have already received 3 checks. There will likely be more. Do you believe this has something to do with Donna being fired? Indeed, it does. Will this have an adverse effect on my divorce proceedings? Have you filed the relevant documentation yet? No, I have not. I was going to request your assistance with that. Harry smiled. William, please pack a small bag and prepare the Challenger for travel. We intend to visit your wife. We will depart at an early hour on Thursday morning. I was smiling. We left at 6 a.m. I checked into the Shiran Hotel. 10 hours later, I called Linda and requested that she take Donna and Lara to lunch at the Reading Motor Inn. The following day, the conversation over dinner was somewhat awkward. Our conversation was varied and confusing. We both avoided discussing the elephant in the room. We had spent our first night together for over a year. We had been friends without benefits. The last thing I wanted was for her to feel uncomfortable. The specifics of the evening are not pertinent to this account, suffice it to say that it was not as traumatic as anticipated. We were both somewhat rusty, but managed to navigate the situation with satisfactory results. She seemed relieved that I was not disgusted, and I was gratified that it was not as dire as she had led me to believe. In the morning, we were both elated. We had a late breakfast. Donna and the girls were already waiting for us at the table. I was wearing one of my new sport coats I was wearing a dark turtleneck, and I appeared to be well-groomed. Harry was attired in one of her light business suits, which was somewhat casual yet professional. My wife and daughters regarded me with astonishment. Donna, Linda, Lara, this is Harriet Parker, my trusted advisor and attorney. Harriet, my wife, Donna, and the daughters, Linda and Lara. The situation was somewhat awkward, but it was the best I could do before we could devolve into meaningless chatter. The waiter arrived to take our order. I indicated that I was not hungry and requested a coffee. Donna was the first to break the silence. I swiftly surveyed the table and reached the same conclusion. Why don't you simply bring us 5 cups of coffee and leave the coffee pot on the table? The waiter nodded and it seemed as though everyone exhaled collectively. It is gratifying to see you again. Bill, could you enlighten us about your activities over the past few years? Donna exhibited a slight smirk as she uttered this, and then continued, I have been engaged in my own work and endeavors, allowing you the autonomy to pursue your own path, or whatever it is you do. Harry gave me a gentle nudge under the table. I needed you, and you left me. Perhaps you needed someone, but not me. Mom, Dad, please stop. I'm certain you didn't arrange this meeting to engage in idle chatter. Dad, why are we here? Linda was quite insistent. I could tell that this meeting would be brief. I was at a loss. I glanced at Harry, hoping to discern a way forward. She ignored me but soon took control of the conversation. Harry reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope was presented to Donna Mrs. Smith across the table. It contained a divorce petition, which the presenter assured her would be found fair. The suggestion was made that she take it to her attorney for further review. The women, Lara and Linda, appeared astonished as they had not anticipated this turn of events. Donna, however, was smiling broadly. She did not take the envelope from Harry, but reached in and pulled one out of her purse. She then proceeded to launch a verbal attack on him. I obtained a copy because I was uncertain of the appropriate mailing address. In any case, this is the final decision. Her smile transformed into a broad grin. The waiter returned with our coffee and a full table vase, just as Donna stood up. She smiled at Harry and me and gave the girls a peculiar look before departing. She left both envelopes on the table. My father inquired if we wished to remain for lunch. I had heard that they serve excellent custard pie here. Laura asked Harry, and responded with laughter and directed the waiter to the table. Harry, Lara, and Linda had a pleasant lunch and engaged in conversation. I felt as though I were dining alone. I had never fully comprehended women. The girls exchanged phone numbers and promised to maintain contact. Back in my room, I began packing. William, I had assumed we were staying one additional night. However, we were not to remain there. I urged him to hasten his packing. An hour and 30 minutes later, we arrived in Elton, Maryland. 30 minutes after that, Harriet Parker transformed into Harry Smith. We spent the night in Lower Virginia. We possess a house with a 3, the garage is a different matter entirely. The girl informed me that Donna had suffered a seizure upon learning that I had received over $2 million from Gilbert Industries. Donna subsequently relocated to Iowa, but I am unsure why.